Coming up on Art Rocks, a Baton Rouge multimedia dreamer whose collages express the workings of the subconscious mind.
The thing I like about Japanese work is that they always have these flowing forms, and I've always wanted to be able to do that, but with paper.
All together now, composing tunes for 10 pianos and digging the roots of a repertory theatre. That's all about to happen on Art Rocks.
Art Rocks is made possible by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you.
Hello, I'm James Fox Smith from Country Roads Magazine, thanking you for joining us on Art Rocks. We begin with Baton Rouge's Matsuo, who credits a lifelong fascination for ancient mythologies and modern video games as the dual inspirations behind his exquisite collage creations. He shares the thinking behind his unique approach.
I grew up playing a lot of video games, and I grew up looking through a lot of art books because I stayed in the house a lot. So I finished the Encyclopedia Britannica when I was really young. But these happened because I saw things on people's walls or in museums, and I want them myself. That was the original reason for my art, but I used to do martial arts, and that's where the Asian thing came from because I was really kind of angry kid. My favorite martial artist was always Miyamoto Musashi, and he, at the end of his life, just stopped fighting, and you just become more zen, and that was the whole goal. I covered a whole canvas in paper, a different type of paper, collaged the whole canvas, and then I do a wash of gesso, and then I draw all my forms on the canvas. I've always liked geishas because I like the movement and the fabric. I was reading all this stuff about the Silk Road. All those are not ones that you use for Japanese art. There's some Japanese pieces in it, but all the rest is actually from the Ottoman Empire because I know they had really nice silks and really nice velvets, and I thought it would go with the form, and I thought that you couldn't tell that it was Ottoman or that it was Japanese. The thing I like about Japanese work is that they always have these flowing forms, and I've always wanted to be able to do that, but with paper, and try to make it flow like they did, but without just line. I'm more partial to just doing line, but as of late, I've been thinking I'm getting good with color. That's what I told myself. And so I started to do things so you can see the form, so you can see the paper, so you can see it move. I'm starting to be able to make it move. And I'm like, wow, I can do that. So I make it move, you know? And then it looks like fabric. And you may think it's just Japanese, but it has Chinese, and it may have Mongolian and anything. Then there's Russian textiles, but that's for me, that's not for you to know. This is for me to have fun because I get bored real easy. So I have to do things to make it more fun. That painting is fighting ghosts, it's two fighting ghosts. There's a tengu at the bottom, and then there's a fox spirit at the top. And the fighting ghost was big for me because I wanted to exercise a lot of anger I had inside of me when I was young. Martial arts made me look at things a lot prettier and made me see that my hands can do a lot more than just break stuff. But I still can show that and still make it pretty. The theme of ghosts is because ghosts are ephemeral. Supposedly I saw them when I was a kid, and supposedly they followed me when I was a kid. Because I'm Creole, so they always have stories for everything. Hokusai is one of my favorite artists, and the reason why my name is Matsuo, my favorite haiku poet is Matsuo Basho, and supposedly haiku poets, whenever they move to a new town, they change their names. So when I was young, I changed my middle name to Matsuo. The knot on the other one's head is actually from like a robe that you do in no dance. I was really into all the Dutch artists, and they always have hunt scenes. There's always hunt scenes and everything going on. But I like the mythology of it, like Actaeon, when she looked at Diana and she sent the dogs after her. and he turned into a deer. I like all those ideas, so I wanted the myth of it, because deer in Buddhist mythology is a kind of divine animal because they go and they disappear. You see them, then they're gone, but that's everything is ephemeral. And that's why I use deer for me. And a lot of mythologies use them. And then I just got obsessed. I'm like, man, I know the bones, I know all this stuff, I know how they move, and I just got obsessed with it. So I just started doing it more and more. I always wanted to make things pretty. I always wanted to make a myth and make it pretty because I'm a storyteller. I can tell stories. That's always been my talent, but I didn't know how to tell it in front of you because I'll hide in a second. These, I can't hide. I can just put them out there and then just go somewhere and then they talk about it later. I went to LSU, but I didn't take the prerequisites because I went to Ed Promick and I said, can I take your class? I promise you I'll impress you. And I didn't take any of the prerequisites. I think I should have now. I think I learned more at 200 Government, which was like a studio commune because there were so many kids and so many talented people come through there, just pop up. We were just people it was an old Coca-Cola building. We only had to pay for electricity. We had bands in there and we just lived in there and people would be coming through all the time and then you can just try everything. You work together because artists usually don't work together. It wasn't that combative and people would just work and do stuff and say, you want to do a collaborative? So people would do really large collaboratives.
Demond, he's infiltrated kind of our Baton Rouge creative community and he's been here for a long time. And he kind of started from the bottom, working out of warehouses, showing his artwork on his own, just kind of on the side of the street near LSU. And then from there, it's those kind of intangible, what we call 10,000 hours that really divides any artist from being a professional artist who's working and living and producing something that's truly unique.
To learn more about these and other events in Louisiana, keep your eyes peeled for a copy of Country Roads magazine. And while we're at it, LPB's Art Rocks website features an archive of previous episodes, so to see any episode again, just log on to lpb.org. Ask a composer. Creating memorable music for a single instrument is hard enough. Imagine then the challenge of composing for an ensemble comprised of 10 pianos. That's what American composer Michael Torke was asked to do. Listen to the way Torke applied his jazz-influenced aesthetic to building an unforgettable soundscape. It took some collaboration.
3, 4.
My name is Mia Vasilev, and I'm the founding director of Miami Piano Circle.
My name is Michael Torke, and I'm the composer of this piece, Miami Grands.
Good. Now, guys, you play simple stuff. Could you be very precise with your pedals?
My name is Georgi Danchev, and by degree, education and experience, I'm a pianist and a conductor.
41, 3, and.
Now I can hear everything, and I can see that everyone's kind of feeling it together, and it's really exciting.
This year we're collaborating with Barry University is presenting this brand new work, which is an exciting commission.
So she called one day and said, "Want to write for 10 pianos?" And the weird thing about that is, 10 pianos?
And this is what just got a wild reaction. People thought, wow, 10 pianos. I am one of the pianists. That's really my core behind the whole thing. And most exciting, I believe, in the series is a commission by Michael Torke called Miami Grands, and we're fortunate to have the composer in attendance at the rehearsals and the performance. This is a totally Miami-inspired piece, so each movement of the piece is based on different cultural or geographical locations in Miami. For example, the Everglades, mojitos and stilettos. When people ask me why 10 pianos, I always say because that's all we can fit on the stage, of course. So 10 pianos, it's just a nice even number, and that is all we can fit on the stage actually in this case.
You know, in music and in the arts, the power of the imagination is even more than like the reality of it. And so, I mean, I'm hoping I captured what I think that it is.
When we have 10 pianos, each one of them indeed making a full orchestra sound, people are very responsive. I think the whole show as a concept reaches the audience.
If you had to come up with a plan to preserve a dying town, where would you start? Way back in the 1960s, the people of Creede, Colorado turned to the arts for salvation. They founded a theatre company to replace some of the revenue lost to a fading mining industry. Now, 50 years later, that company is a nationally recognized theatrical enterprise. Take a look.
Christy Brandt's commute to work is 2 blocks. Still, most days it takes nearly an hour to navigate. Traffic can't be blamed for the delay. Nope, Creede is not prone to that. What holds Brandt up? Her fans.
Hi babe, how are you?
I'm good.
I think some people that come here aren't necessarily that attracted to everybody knowing who you are, everybody knowing what you do, and where you are every day. I truly feel like I'm a part of this community.
That sense of community has had a more practical purpose too. It has helped the Creede Repertory Theater to thrive. Understanding that, though, means looking back 50 years.
Well, and see, then the mine had shut down, and we was afraid that the town would dry up and blow away. So we created this to keep the town a-going.
Phil Leggett was 23 years old when Creede Repertory Theater put on its first productions in 1966.
This is a mining town, and it was rough and tough, and we had never seen anything like actual theater. So it was just mind-boggling how those people could remember all of those lines.
But before a single line was spoken, Leggett and Jim Livingston had to pitch the theater idea to its junior chamber of commerce, a foreign concept in the small community 250 miles southwest of Denver.
Not everyone fished, and not everyone went around and partied from ranch to ranch, so there might be something in town, and it might be good for the economy, and it might also be good for the local people who didn't get to do a whole lot of things.
Creede's Chamber of Commerce agreed. Still, a key component was missing: the talent.
I knew that if we were going to do it, there was no frame of reference here for theater. I knew a drama department at one of the major universities would be able to supply that. And if someone were crazy enough to come here because we didn't have any money, just raw material and an old opera house and a few other things, well, then maybe we could pull it off.
A dozen theater students from the University of Kansas caught wind of the idea. Crazy or not, Steve Reed was among those who embraced it.
I was thinking, okay, coming out to Colorado, to the Rocky Mountains, starting a theater in an honest-to-goodness Old West mining town, this is an adventure.
You know, we opened our homes and our community to those kids to put those plays on. We gave them a chance, and they gave us a chance to learn what theater was all about. So it was a two-way deal.
I've never been to a place like this where you feel like people want you in their family.
CRT garnered national attention during Maurice LeMay's 12 years of leadership. As former executive and artistic director, LeMay also helped expand its footprint both in and out of Creede, adding a second theater and staging work in Denver.
I think you have to be more cautious when you're the Denver Center Theater Company or you're, you know, a major theater company in a way. There's more at risk. Here you can kind of take chances. No one's going to know you mess up.
Jessica Jackson is Creede's current artistic director. I found an audition advertisement for the 2015 season, and it said, quote, "We're hiring a family of artists." Does that stem from the fact that the community and the theater are so tightly knit?
When we bring in our summer company of about 90, we're increasing the population of Creede by 20-something%. And so we feel like we have a responsibility to bring in people who are going to not only be good company members, but be good community members too, because whether you like it or not, you are not anonymous here. You are a member of this community.
As a founding company member, Gary Mitchell was among the first to experience the close relationship between the theater and the community.
Well, it was Mr. Roberts. It was June 26, 1966. We'd been working on this play for 10 days, but we'd also been working on building a theater for 10 days and surviving as a company for 10 days. We were having so much fun finally doing a show, even though the paint was wet. And there was this incredible feeling and energy.
The theater has had less than incredible moments too.
But then in 1970, when the theater burned, that could have been it. I mean, you know, the managing directors that year, you know, they could have just said, you know, we can't do this anymore. But they came out here, they met with some of the townspeople, and they all got together and say, we can do this. Let's just do it.
And they did, restoring the theater's scorched interior in 1 month's time. Audiences then, and now, are eager to fill seats. Jessica Jackson pointed out part of the reason for strong ticket sales is CRT's long-standing and exceedingly rare choice to run performances in Repertory.
There is the opportunity for audience members to see 6 different performances in one weekend here. And that is a monumental task for an actor. That means being able to run 4 different shows in 1 week.
And for the production and technical crew, it means this. There's something else that sets Creede apart from other theater companies. Instead of its actors slipping out the stage door after a show, they do the opposite.
This is a very valuable experience for Creede. It makes everybody that comes to the theater feel more a part of the theater, and it makes us understand what this art can do for people.
There have always been ups and downs, you know, there always are, but this community is just so amazing.
I'm mighty proud of what they're doing, and we had no idea that it would last this long.
It's grown beyond anything that I ever could have imagined. This is something great.
But for Christy Brandt and everyone else at Creede Repertory Theater, it's just another day at work.
You might be surprised at where some of the most creative minds in product marketing choose to set up shop. In a tiny town named Camp Spring, Kentucky, on land his great-grandfather once farmed, Keith Neltner runs his innovative and highly successful design company. Neltner says the appreciation for heritage and craftsmanship learned in Camp Spring is what helps bring brands to life.
We're in a place called Camp Springs, Kentucky. My great-great-grandfather actually came from Germany in 1845. He settled here. My family basically has stayed and taken root here. The farm is still a working farm. My oldest brother actually manages the farm, and it's turned into a wedding venue. My mom still active and cans pickles, and we do a fall festival. So it's rural, but it's, you know, there's kind of interesting things kind of tucked in the hills, and I guess maybe we're one of those. Small Batch, in a nutshell, is a branding studio, whether that be for musicians, the distilling industry, or candy. That really is what we do. We tell stories visually with an aesthetic that I think is unique. So I was able to bring this work ethic to design and creating that was kind of unique, and it really drove me throughout my career. One of the influences with kind of creating Small Batch was, could you take a team that, you know, in a larger agency might be spread out across multiple projects, multiple responsibilities, but what if you could take kind of a core team that just focused on creating? So one of our team members is Jeff Chambers. He's a writer, creative director from, you know, actually the Herzog space that we're in right now. We did the branding for the record store, and Jeff wrote for that, and so we've probably worked together 10 plus years. It's interesting because he brings the level to Small Batch, the tone, the copy tone, not just visually what we do, but in words and storytelling. It's an invaluable talent that he brings.
These guys always grab onto something within this story, and then we get back together and bam, it's this fantastic thing.
Rob Warnick is a local illustrator who has this really kind of ironic, kind of fun cartoon kind of style. But he's worked with us on brands like Ferrera Candy Company out of Chicago. We reinvented Lemonhead, which is a brilliant, you know, 70s brand. He just brought a tone to the project that we needed. Truly, I look at this work as a reflection of us and myself. We have to be proud of that. And I think tapping into the right people for the tone or the aesthetic is just important. I was influenced by people along the way that illustrators that I just admired or saw them firsthand creating spray paint, ink, whatever it might be. And what that ends up doing is creating something that, you know, there's not a repetitive nature in the work. It does feel completely hands-on, and I think in a pretty mobile, computer-centric world, maybe that's what drives my interest in creating something. Even if it shows up on Instagram or on an app, it has origins that were created by a person. So that's really important, I think. In a lot of ways, I try and create that imperfection sometimes in the work. But for me, I layer things and I bring that into the work. There's a moment where I'm like, okay, that's done. Or someone can't just replicate that. Like, we made something unique. So Boone County Distilling Company came to us a couple years ago and said, hey, we want to resurrect this distillery that was in Boone County. So the first product that they launched was called 1833, and it really championed William Schneider as the influence. The tagline that Jeff Chambers wrote was made by ghosts. I think the idea of storytelling, the way we interpret it, can be different. I think, yeah, the process can be really focused. So if it's an illustration or, you know, a bourbon label, a lot of times I'll look for inspiration that tonally might start to feel through color and texture and type how the end piece might feel. So essentially a mood board. But usually things start with tracing paper and it's pretty loose. and then you kind of slowly tighten and funnel and finesse, and we'll share conceptual directions with a client to kind of bring them along as we're creating. You've got ink and printers and paper, and there's a lot of attributes, that tactile things, that you kind of have to have that vision early on to plan for that or to kind of bring that to life. I think there's a lot of pride in the sense that a lot of the work is created here, and it's inevitably influenced by our environment. There's a truth to what we can bring to a project that applies, and the farm is still, we're still sustaining that, and that is really important. You know, in the afternoon, my kids get home from school and they pop up here, and they're an influence to me. It's just procuring that from your life. And someone asked me, how's it going? It's like, it's just one big life. You know what I mean? Like, there's blurred lines in a really good way, where family, I hope my family, my kids, and, you know, are influenced by what they're seeing, so they can turn it into something completely different, and, you know, take something from it and make their own thing, you know, because I think that my parents and my grandparents would be proud of that.
And that is that for this edition of Art Rocks. But remember, art lover, you can always watch episodes of the show at lpb.org/artrocks. And if that's not enough for you, Country Roads magazine is a great resource for enriching your cultural life with art, cuisine, escapes and events all across the state. Until next week, I've been James Fox Smith, and thank you for watching.